Welcome back, everybody, to Real Time for the Real Everyday Movie Fan. I am, of course, Josh Williams.
I'm Ryan Murphy.
And I'm James Sheridan.
I told you guys who watched my review of the first episodes 1 and 2, I'd try to get James and Ryan on, because I don't know if you guys watched my review of that, guys, because I know sometimes we don't watch all of our stuff, because we make it. But I was in love with episodes 1 and 2, absolutely. I was able, even at first I was confused on about when this took place, but after finding out on the official MCU timeline when this took place, I was able to figure it out and be okay with
There's
it.
no official word on when it takes place, though.
It's on the official Marvel Cinematic Universe's timeline. It's it's
what?
official.
Fandom.com?
Huh? No,
On what?
Marvel
Fandom.com?
Studios released when this on their when you go on their thing, it actually takes place. But no, and so because that was a big confusing part for me. But then after that, especially that opening with Foggy, I cried. I just rewatched it before this episode and I cried again. But we're here, guys. What's that?
Over nothing.
What's that?
He's not gone. He's not gone.
But we're here, though, honestly, guys, for everybody watching here, we're here to give you our spoiler reaction to Daredevil Episode 3 for Daredevil Born Again. Now, again, this is a spoiler warning. If you have not seen it, what the heck are you doing here? Go back, watch it, and join us here in this conversation. Now, going into this, of course, the White Tiger play Hector. What was his last name again?
Hector Ayala.
Yeah, I couldn't pronounce it. He was on trial for killing cops, and that big fight scene ensued. That was awesome with Matt Murdock and the two corrupt officers with the Punisher logo tattoo, I might add, which I'm excited about. But let's start off with James. You saw the episode. What'd you think? And what do you think so far? Give the audience a brief what you thought of the first two episodes.
It's hard to gauge exactly at this point how I feel about the series as a whole, as we're only 3 episodes in. We're not really into the meat and potatoes of what the plot and story is yet. Most of it's sort of catching up on where these characters are since we last met them, and of course now we've lost Foggy and Karen, and they're not part of the plot at this point in the story. We'll see what happens when they come back. I'm with Ryan, where I don't think Foggy's actually dead.
I've heard about that in the comics.
I debated with myself about whether or not Karen is in on that or not. But having reviewed the first episode again, I don't think she is. Regardless, it's a gut-wrenching scene in the opening of the first episode. And as you said, the fight scene in the second episode was brutal.
That was so cool.
Both of them were, but yeah, that was they're not holding back on this series, which was one of my concerns going into it, was that they would kind of PG it a little bit for a Disney audience, which they clearly haven't. This episode was a lot more subdued in that we don't get the big action set pieces, but I didn't find it any less riveting. There's a moment where they're very desperately trying to get the confidential informant to the courthouse.
I was on the edge of my seat.
I was actually nervous about whether or not they would get him there in time, whether or not the very clearly corrupt cops would get there first. And then, as soon as the cop pulled over the van, I knew, okay, he's not in the van, because that would end this very quickly. And the CI, of course, flipped on them and didn't wasn't a reliable witness for the defense, which of course required Matt to pull a sort of very questionable tactic and piss off both the DA and the judge
and Hector Hector.
Yeah, so once again, Matt having very questionable ethics throughout the series. I'm glad that weird personality quirk of this take on the character hasn't changed.
Yep.
I'm never quite sure whether or not I like Matt in this series or not.
I love him, but
just because, again, I question his choices so often. But yeah, the courtroom drama in this was I thought it was really well done.
Yep.
I thought it was very riveting. I was on the edge of my seat, and then we get that gut punch of an ending where again, spoilers. If you haven't seen it at this point, I beg you to turn off right now when Ayelet gets shot in the face or
Oh
shot in
my
the
god,
head
yeah, that ending
by
shocked the fuck out of me.
who is very clearly not Frank Castle, but is wearing the Punisher chest, and we're supposed to think it's Frank Castle, but
Yeah.
I don't think we're supposed to think it's Frank Castle. It's
Well,
supposed
they try, but we
I
as
think
the
they're
audience know it's
teasing
not
us to.
Frank.
I think they're teasing us to think it's Frank Castle.
Yeah, we
But it's very
like
not Frank's MO. It's very much the crooked cop's MO.
the story
Um,
is supposed to make us think that, even though we nerds know Frank would never do that.
yeah.
It's just the story, like for like everyday audiences, that are making us believe that. But I honestly, I mean, I won't say I didn't see it coming, because the only reason I saw it maybe coming that his character would get killed off is because the fact that the main actor died.
Yeah.
He died in
Well, I mean,
2023.
I think they were gonna. The plan was probably to kill him off regardless.
Yeah.
But
how they did it,
although
fuck.
there are aspects of the story where it's like it's very clear that these things were not planned to be part of the original thing, and they've reshot stuff to include stuff.
Mhm.
Very much clearly Foggy and Karen, who, feature heavily in the first 20 minutes of the first episode and then are just almost completely gone. And I have a feeling that they're going to be gone for most of the season because
Yep.
it's no secret that, Marvel didn't plan for them to come back, and then they realized their mistake and thought, we can't leave them out of this. But then, they're not going to scrap the rest of their story. So they augmented, shifted a little bit, pivoted,
Yeah.
and included them, but then very quickly
Yeah. No, I
put them
myself,
aside.
I myself also found the courtroom drama aspect very riveting, just because one of the things that the only real small thing audiences complained about from the Netflix series wasn't there wasn't enough courtroom drama, because that's one of the big key parts of Daredevil, Matt Murdock's character. So the fact they brought these on was actually, we're seeing more of it, is a good thing in my opinion. But Ryan, you saw this too as well. I know you had some complaints about the first two episodes, but what did you think? And give us
I
your
just think
overview of the first two.
episodes just.
Go
I
ahead.
love the first two episodes. I think I was upset that there was no reference to the blip. There was no reference to who blipped. The Netflix shows for a long time. There was this huge, so Marvel Television was going on as sort of this bastard step brother of Marvel Studios that Kevin Feige never signed off on. He never really wanted around. But the higher ups at Disney gave Jeff Loeb. Jeff Loeb was the Kevin Feige of Marvel TV, so they made all these TV shows, including the 5 or 6 Netflix shows. And whenever Kevin was asked, like, "Oh, are those canon? Do those take place in this?" And he kind of go, "So how the Cubs doing?" Like, and when they started making this show, it was very definitive. No, when they were making the show, they were basically hadn't come out with that, but they were when like D'Onofrio's come out and said it. I know they had a different actress cast as Vanessa Fisk at the time. It was very much no, and then like James said, there was a huge creative overshift, and basically one of the decisions they made was to go ahead and actually give the answer, change their mind and say yes. And so now I don't know about Agents of Shield or
We,
Cloak
we
and
don't know.
Dagger.
We still don't know how much of the Netflix series actually apply to this,
I
though.
think
It's
it's all in
possible
there,
these are
and
still variants of the versions that we saw,
I
Um,
think
and they're
it's
going to
very.
play
I think
fast and loose with canon until they can figure out what they do or do not want to include.
well, and
I think based on the fact that
it was confirmed in interviews with, because
yeah,
after a
D'Onofrio
while,
basically said
when
it.
they first started production on the show, they were keeping it very vague. Because they would ask Charlie Cox, they would ask all these other actors, is the Netflix stuff, and they're like, well, it's something new, it's something different. Like, they're trying to be vague, but then when as Ryan alluded, Kevin Feige and them saw the error of the ways of not including that into it. That's when they started bringing back all these other characters who were from Netflix, and then there was an interview. I can probably link it in the description, or at least in the comments for some folks, that Charlie Cox was able to confirm that the Netflix shows were now a part of this
Well,
story.
here's my only question: is if I think they're very much canonizing Daredevil. Does that mean they canonize? It's be very difficult to canonize Daredevil and not the rest of the shows, considering they kind of weave in and out of each other. Plus, Dario Scardapane, who is the showrunner for Born Again, was one of the head writers on Punisher season 2. Anyway, this is all getting away from.
Yeah, yeah.
So this episode I really liked. I think it's ballsy to have a show, which is a Marvel show. It's a superhero show called Daredevil, and to not have Daredevil basically for at least the 3 episodes, other than the action sequence at the very beginning. There's no Daredevil, and we're 3 episodes in, and it's I think that's really I rewatched Aliens a little while ago, and I realized that nothing actually it's an action movie, and nothing actually happens action wise for over an hour into the movie, and so I kind of like it when movies and TV can trust their audiences to be patient for that stuff and go in for the story and go in for what's. And I think that, and you say we're not that far into it, but another thing I like just already is that we're promised only 9 episodes, because to catch up on this, again, Dario Scardapane worked on this in Punisher, so I kind of figured that it would all weave together. I not rewatched. I watched for the first time finally Daredevil or Punisher season 2,
Oh, it's so good.
and I was just not really.
I love
I
it.
was
No,
just
I loved it.
reminded that I do not miss those. I'm sorry, like I think maybe all the Netflix series were kind of overrated just because they drag that shit out. Like just like okay, well this we're pretty much almost done, right? How many episodes we have? Oh, we're 6 episodes in. We got 7 left to go. Great. Like and they just drag that shit out. I mean, it's just to the nth degree, to the point where you thought you were gonna pull your hair out. So I'm looking forward to this only being 9. I'm looking forward. I think they have a tightly wound story they're going for. I love the courtroom stuff. I was just gonna say other superheroes don't necessarily have this, and then I kind of called myself on my own bullshit, where what they're doing in their civilian job is affecting the story, and they sort of have this battle on two fronts. Um, I don't know. I don't know that there's many Superman stories where Clark Kent is, because he's a reporter. That would make for a good story, but I've never read a story like that. But I guess it's theoretically possible. Certainly, like I don't know. I think The Flash had a whole 9 seasons of television where occasionally he, as a forensic scientist, would work out stuff. But I think that's always been a huge thing for Daredevil, is that he's fighting the battles both on the streets and in the courtroom,
Yep.
which I really have always liked. And in fact, we have to go back. Goes back over 20 years for James and me, to the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck, which famously, like in the beginning of our friendship back in before I ever met Josh, was our disagreement over that, because I always kind of really liked it. In more recent years I have finally come around to sort of saying its inherent flaws and everything, but um there's still aspects of it that I really like. And I remember when the director's cut came out, there were so many people saying, "Oh, it's so much better! It's so much better!" I'll never forget the words of James. A gold-painted turd is still a turd. James always says that I remember things that he said better than he does, and yeah.
Dude, you pull
Um,
out stuff that I said like 10, 15 years ago that I don't even remember saying. Like
that was a comment like on the Force.net boards that we met on. That was like that
yeah, I said a
was
lot of shit at that time.
but in that director's cut, there's actually a whole subplot, that like an hour-long subplot that's cut from the theatrical movie, about, I don't know, I forget if it's Coolio or Busta Rhymes.
It's
Look these two
Coolio.
guys. It's Coolio, where they defend Coolio, but that defense ends up being how they find out Wilson Fisk is the kingpin, and or how, yeah, basically, like, and it's actually really well weaved into the story. So I love that, and that goes into the comics too. When Frank Miller was writing the comics, he'd always have Matt's battle in the courtroom always reflect what was going on outside of it. So I really adore that as a part of his character.
The fact that this
So
actually does that is a good thing, at least.
yeah, but he's still not Daredevil again yet. So it's really interesting that the thrill is in the courtroom. The thrill is in, as you said, the scene with the witness, and I love that there's not no action like
Yeah.
there was. Certainly at the end of episode 2, there was a little bit of action where Matt was forced to get his hands dirty.
I
I
like
love the confrontation in the bathroom where he's like the cop. He's like, "What the fuck, man?"
Yeah.
He's
So
like,
I like that they're doing this only because the reason they're exploring the characters' duality of each other. When I'm talking about characters, I'm talking about Wilson Fisk and Charlie and Matt Murdock. They're both
Mhm.
portraying these people who have left their past behind them. Fisk being mayor and Matt trying to not be Daredevil and let the system
Mhm.
work. But you're slowly starting to see it creep out as the episodes progress, and I think that's a good thing because you're then exploring that no matter what these guys can do, they cannot hide from who they really are. And
It's a
to
wonderful
me,
insight. It's
huh?
a really That's great. I love it. It's
And to me,
very
that's what I think this is really exploring, and I love that, and seeing how that's like, 'cause you're slowly seeing it start to come out a bit
mhm.
after bit. And now moving forward to episode 4, it looks like we're now going to get into the section piece of the season where we're exploring the Punisher aspect of it with the corrupt cops. Because not only did you see those 2 cops from the train station with Punisher tattoos, you
Yeah.
also saw one in the courtroom that had one on his neck that said, "Oh, this guy can't testify." Yeah. So it's obviously a group of them maybe
Yeah.
trying to do their own vigilante justice of some kind. I'm not sure. Or they're actually
Which
just corrupt.
I love that they're including this aspect of the story. I don't know if they ever did this in the comics, but it's actually a very prevalent thing
Yeah,
in real life
it
where there
is.
are cops who worship the Punisher to an ironic degree because what they're doing is something that Frank Castle would very much oppose. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
the the, the irony in real life of these people who worship that and whatnot, um, and don't understand the point
Hmm.
has
Yep.
always been something sort of baffling. So seeing a subplot of similar characters taking it to um, a more obviously dangerous degree. I don't know how much real life cops are involved in stuff like this necessarily, but um, these cops very clearly, taking justice into their own hands and
Yep.
ironically a very vigilante sort of way, which like the entire sort of subplot of this season is, vigilantes, their effect on society,
Mm-hmm.
Wilson Fisk's sort of drive to eliminate them or, get them off of the map and his support of the cops, even though the cops don't support him, but the cops are themselves
Yep.
becoming vigilantes. And it's like these degrees and layers of like, um, I don't even know what to refer to it as, but like it's not as simple as black and white, and
Yep.
it's not just good versus evil. Um, Even the brutality that Matt inflicts upon the cops. Like I swear to God, I thought one of them was dead.
I did
The way he
too.
landed on his neck there, I thought he was dead.
I did too.
Because how I don't know how you land like that and not be completely destroyed.
I think
I've
that's
Um,
also
one of the
seen the
things, with
TV
the
show.
with the exception of what he did to Bullseye. 'Cause I think he was really just trying to kill him because he just snapped.
Oh yeah, and that's from the comics too. That's straight
Yeah,
out of the comics.
yeah,
That's
but
after he killed Electra in the comics that he does that same thing to him
mm-hmm.
in the
Yeah,
famous Daredevil 181, of course.
man.
Um,
But I think Matt has always been really good at knowing the limits of what he can do to someone without killing them. Like if you've seen it in probably in the previous seasons where he would like throw someone off the like 2-story. No, he just broke his legs. He's fine. Like things like that. You're like he knows
breaking
the
your legs and
limits.
breaking your neck are two very different things, though.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
But so far, guys, I know we're only, three. This is only 3 episodes in, but
we're a
just
third of
this,
the way. We're at the. I mean,
yeah, third of the
that's a
way through.
good
I guess you're right.
third of the way through.
But what would you rate just this episode alone of the courtroom drama aspect of it, and just the story moving forward now? Because now we're gonna get into hopefully the vigilante task force that Fisk is gonna start up with. There's reports of that. What would you give this episode as a score?
I mean, I don't know that I always hate scores. I really do.
I
I
know
hate
you do.
four scores. Like
You
we
know
did our
me.
Shakespeare review, and you asked me for a score, and it was like, oh man, like I gave it a 0 actually in the end. But like I mean, because this was very very good. I don't know. Does that make it a 10 out of 10? There was not a whole lot of flaws. I mean,
Yeah.
but
there's a
it's
little bit
also
like
hard
I
to
don't.
judge it unto itself without the
Yeah.
scope of the rest of the series kind of thing.
Exactly,
So
because once this, you can't judge a movie. You can't judge the first third of a movie. You don't watch the first third of Jurassic Park and be like, "What? Well, what do you think?" Well, it's kind of boring. It's just people just sitting around talking about the philosophies of bringing back dinosaurs. You know, like
Dodson, Dodson, we got Dodson
Dodson.
here.
Yeah, Dodson. Yeah. I
See,
mean,
nobody
so I don't know.
cares.
I'm gonna abstain. There we go. I abstain.
You
Get the
abstain.
abstain.
That's fair. That's
It's
fair. All
very
right. Well,
good. I
maybe we'll
really
just
like it
save.
so far. It's getting very good reviews from people who have seen the completed series, and certain critics who have been allowed to watch the whole series.
Yep.
Uh, One person's
It's funny
called it a
because when the Rotten
masterpiece.
Tomatoes score dropped, it was like really low, and then it
Yeah,
shot right back up again, which you don't see very often with Rotten Tomato
Mhm.
scores. So
yeah.
it had me kind of like, oh, did they drop the ball on this? But so far, it's been pretty good. I don't know if I want to give it a number score either yet.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
I have to
Um,
ask though,
but I
Josh.
do want to say this one would rate very highly for me so far.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like I said, my main thing is I just love, again, hey, I was kind of going back and forth. Do other superheroes do this? Maybe the Flash a little bit. Not Superman as much as he could. There's potential there. But I really think Daredevil is, out of all the superheroes, he's the one who's civilian job comes into play in the story, and just that constant of showing him both on the streets and in the courtroom. I adore that aspect of the character, so I adore that they're doing that here. I really can't say enough about how much I like that. I do have to ask real quickly, Josh, is that background supposed to look like are you is that like hinting at Daredevil back there? Because it looks like a Catholic church candle.
Oh no.
Uh,
Actually, well,
okay,
I'm slowly. Well, eventually, this is all going to be reversed, and I have a wall here that's it's right here, in this area. That's going to be full of a bunch of decorations. This is just one of them. It's actually an arrow pointing. It's the snack
okay.
bar thing. It's
It
like
looks
a.
like a little prayer candle like
It
thing you
kind of
would see in a
does.
Catholic
It
church.
kind of works, doesn't
That
it? But I have my
yeah,
TV right
so
here, where I watch the episodes, and
yeah.
but this is all going to be put to
I
the
do
desk
have to say
behind
that's
me.
another. I used to. James said he's not sure if he likes Matt or not. Like one thing is like I'm the token Catholic here, and I very much appreciate characters of faith, but Matt is such a bad Catholic, and it's like such a big aspect of who he is. Like they always talk about it, and like there's an episode where Foggy's like, "Oh man, someone as Catholic as you," and I'm like, "He's a fucking horrible Catholic. What are you talking?"
And it's funny that there hasn't been much like it felt like in the Netflix
Yeah,
series, like almost every episode he was in a church at some point.
yeah.
Um Siri, I said series, not Siri.
And
Go
I think
away.
honestly, I did love this. I think there's a reason we haven't seen him yet in a church because of his death, the death of Foggy. I really think that's an element that maybe at the end of the season we'll see him return to church because you notice he walks by the church
Yeah.
and doesn't go in.
Well, also Father Paul is dead, which was
Yeah,
a
that
huge.
too.
First three seasons was that was his sort of Jiminy Cricket. That was his conscience was to go to
Yeah,
Father Paul, and he'd be the one who would talk to him. And now he's gone too. So
yeah. Well,
yeah,
I'm gonna give it a score. I'm gonna give it a 9. I still really
okay.
loved it. Um, it was a very. I love the drama aspect of it. It's very interesting seeing BB Yurick in here. As the reporter, that's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. And yeah, man, I just can't wait for season. I can't wait for episode 4 now. I really can. I'm excited. But all right, folks, that'll do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. More importantly, what did you think of Daredevil episode 3? Leave your comments in the section below. This is spoiler territory, so keep in mind of that. Give us your positives and your negatives in a score if you want to, or you can abstain like these two. It's up to you. Also, if you like what you watched and you like what we provide here, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you receive all of our great content we have for you here on ReelTime. That'll do us for today. Again, I'm Josh Williams.
I'm Ryan Murphy
And I'm James Sheridan.
And thank you for keeping it real.
with ReelTime.
Good night.